This is your chance to join us as we talk about gardening, horticulture, landscaping, in fact, anything that has to do with the world of gardening. Now, here's Brian Main, John Bagnasco, and Tiger Palafox on the Garden America Radio and Media Network.
Well, good morning once again. Hello there. We are back in studio, back with the boys. I'm Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. Hope you had a good week. And I would imagine most of us here in Southern California, parts of California, still drying out from the rain, as we experienced quite a bit of rain. With more on the rain in California, here's John Bagnasco. How many inches, John, at least at your place? Any idea? Can you surmise?
Yeah, I had over 5 inches.
That's like a yearly
in that
total.
one storm?
Yeah.
That's like a yearly total for San Diego.
It was terrible.
It was terrible?
It was terrible.
That's a lot of, I know
because there was gale force winds that
yeah.
went along with it.
Yeah.
And trees were falling over, and then it was cold. This morning I had ice on my windshield coming into work. I think it was 37 when I got in the car. That's cold.
So you know what people
cold for
do?
Southern California.
We're talking to people who have like those ice scrapers at the gas stations,
right?
And they have like 4 of them in their car because they always need it. Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, we are drying out here. Speaking of rain, our fountain has filled up 2 or 3 times and overflowed in the past several days. The patio's a mess. I imagine most people still have leaves and debris around, and I'm just waiting to make sure it's not going to rain right away before I start cleaning things up. I want to wait. I want some sunshine here for a few days.
Yeah. You're hoping to get a little break and then
clean
you'll
things
clean up.
It's like washing. John, you haven't washed your car in a year, so you can appreciate this.
Washed it last week when it rained.
That's true. Well, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So I haven't washed it in a while because why? And the rain's been strong enough to where it actually does do a pretty good job.
Yeah. I always find it funny when it does rain and you do drive your car and then it gets sunny the next day and your car looks dirtier. Because there's dirt on the roads and all of that.
And sometimes there's dirty rain. This wasn't the case, but about a year ago it rained, and every car I saw, including mine, was just like dirty.
Yeah.
It was like whatever was falling out of the sky. It it was bad. But this was fairly clean rain.
But it's really neat after the rain to see the landscape because it always looks clean.
Oh yeah.
And then
I
was in Point Loma, and it's that classic view that you see on posters in San Diego, and you're like, that's not San Diego. But when you're on Point Loma and you look back at the city across the bay, and then you can see the mountains with snow right behind them, and you're like, wait a minute, this looks like Denver or some other place in where they have ski lodges.
How easy it is to see the Coronado Islands.
Yep.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Mexico, you can see all the way into Mexico.
Right.
It's like you can almost reach out and touch it. It does clean the air, so things are looking good.
What is the distance from where we're at right here to Mexico as a bird flies? Maybe like 10 miles?
Oh, it's got to be way more than
No,
that.
I don't think it's about 10, 15 miles, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. It's
so
a 20 minute.
You can see all the way down in there.
Right. Exactly. So we need the rain. Now, some people may say, well, not this much, but we've got it.
I don't think anybody would say not this much.
Well, if you know about the rarity of rain.
Yeah.
Brian knows people.
He
knows people that would say
in these parts.
Who in California is complaining about the volume of rain right now?
This week in this building, people already complaining about the rain.
Goodness.
And I said, in 3 months, you'll be the same person complaining about the heat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've got about a 5-degree tolerance here in San Diego.
That's true. We're spoiled.
It really spoiled. Too much rain. Now it's too hot.
And you know what it is funny, though, is that I will say that it rains more often in the evenings than during the day here. So when it rains during the day, people do get annoyed.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it should have rained overnight. It should have rained while we were all asleep. And then in the morning, it should have been over.
Right.
We went to Universal Studios on Thursday. And when you get up there into the Hollywood Hills, and from Universal Studios, you can see everywhere. It was like Switzerland.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
I saw mountains that had snow that I've never seen before.
Right.
Yeah, but were the hills alive with the sound of music?
They might have been there. Lisa in Redding says they're expecting more snow.
More?
Yeah.
Wow. Gee.
More snow? Does that equate to more rain, I would imagine, in certain parts?
Well, the nice thing about snow, as long as it's not damaging your landscape, because there's a lot of areas that got snow that never get snow. But it slowly melts. So therefore you don't have the runoff, the flooding, as much as when you get a rain. So snow is really nice because it just lands, kind of slowly trickles down
Slowly
and melts,
trickles down,
gets
slowly
into
melts.
the ground.
Right.
It's less damaging when it comes to washing out or flooding than rain is.
Unless the reservoirs are already full.
Yeah.
And then it starts melting, and the ground is saturated, so there's nowhere for it to go.
But what about the levees?
The
levees are dry.
Yes. John took his Chevy to the levee,
Yeah. Levee was
but
dry.
the levee was dry.
I have a rose called Houston Levee.
Really?
Yep.
Never heard that before.
Why?
That's a new one.
Is there any?
I mean,
are
new
there,
to
are there,
me. I haven't heard the
Are
name.
there levees in Houston?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know
Well,
why
there's
it was
there's
called
levees
that.
in New Orleans and
Right.
Louisiana. We all know
right.
that.
And Houston's right over there, so
Yeah.
there might be some levees over there, huh?
Houston Levy. That sounds like a country singer. Ladies and gentlemen, on stage, live, Houston Levy.
Are you sure it's not Houston Levi?
Ah.
Is it
Well, it's spelled Levee.
Leve?
Oh, it's Houston Levy.
Levy.
It's Levy, John. It's Levy. Hey, so those on Facebook Live, welcome. Those on Biz Talk Radio, we do appreciate you tuning in. Questions, comments. Again, now we had a guest last week, right?
Yep. Talk
This
about
week,
the Philadelphia Flower Show.
all right, this week we are guestless.
Yeah.
No guest this week. It's all about you on Facebook. Questions, comments, and we'll lead the way.
We're going to tell you the correct answers, the facts, no guessing.
Just the facts.
And
No
Brian
guessing.
will correct your grammar as you go along.
No, I don't do. That's like telling somebody they have bad breath.
You just don't do it?
Just, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
My,
stink.
my, my wife's an English teacher, so she just corrects me all
well,
day
you can
long.
appreciate.
Yeah.
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 Of course.
Does it work?
No. I've established that I'm done learning school things. I
don't know if English is really a school thing. It has to do with communication.
Communication. Yeah, with your brethren, your fellow man, fellow woman.
Yeah, but you get by, right? Even somebody that doesn't speak perfect English, you get what they're saying.
Well,
it might not be the exact way you should say it,
and then
but
you know what?
understand it.
To back up your argument, if you want to call it that, is somebody could say, it's acceptable now. It's become acceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time you couldn't say ain't,
Mm-hmm.
which is a contraction for is not, right, John? Would that be correct? Ain't, aren't.
So when you guys were growing up, calling someone, my generation was more dude, right?
Dude's
Your
been around.
your parents didn't correct you when you said dude.
No, we didn't.
You didn't say
We didn't
dude.
use
think
it.
my
Okay.
parents ever heard me say dude.
Yeah.
The
so,
first time
so
I
I grew
heard-
up saying dude.
The first time I heard dude was Martha Hoople had a song called All the Young Dudes back in 1973. All the young dudes carry the
So
news.
now my son, it's brah.
That's Hawaiian.
He says, "Hey, brah."
That's Hawaiian.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
He calls you that?
Yeah. Bruh.
Hey, bro.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
You know that is Hawaiian, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Brah.
totally Hawaiian, Southern California,
Now,
and all of that. So.
Back in our day, that would be disrespectful to your parents.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's
So
like-
is calling your parents dude.
That's like him saying, "Hey, Tiger, can you help me with my homework?"
yeah.
Wait till that happens.
I think
yeah.
we used man, right?
Man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you guys did man.
Man, did
That's
a lot of
right.
man,
That
yeah.
was popular. That was.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man. What's
You
up?
call me by my name. You don't call me man.
Hey, man. I've got a name.
Yeah.
My wife ordered on Amazon quite a few things actually, but she's starting seeds indoors,
What?
and
What
she
kind
got
seeds?
one of those little
greenhouse.
little
plastic
greenhouse
thing?
things, yeah, and some seed starting soil, and for why I have no idea, but she's doing African daisies. But I think it's because
You wouldn't let her.
No,
planted it.
because
So she's gonna grow her
she
own.
did it to plant passion vines, and she only had 2 rows for passion vines, so she found a package of African daisies, and then put that to fill the rest. And they're all coming up, and she's so happy that the passion vines are coming up. And it's one of those things that I think is some kind of scam. It's like planting seeds for the rainbow roses.
Well, did she buy this like on TV, a special offer at midnight?
She saw something on Instagram or something like that. I'm impressed because to get the seeds to germinate, she had to scarify them. So she got a little bit of sandpaper and sanded them.
She did all that?
Yeah, and then she kept them in water overnight.
She
And
tries
then
harder
she
than
planted
you.
them, and now she's got 3 coming up. Wow. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of flower it is, because it looked to me like the flower was photoshopped, and it came from Barcelona. The seeds.
Did it say just African daisy, or did it give?
Oh
give
no,
a
no, I'm talking about
name?
the passion flowers.
Oh,
the African daisies are regular African daisies, but the passion flower, some kind of special variety from Barcelona. But
did it have a botanical name, or did it just say passion flower?
I think it might have said passiflora.
Yeah,
but it just looked odd to me. It didn't look like a passion flower.
yeah.
But we'll see.
They have they have passiflora, purple tiger, and then there's something purple haze. I think those flowers look pretty unique, and when they take photos of them, they do elaborate a little bit on their colorations and things like that.
If I find this one, I'll show it to you later. But I'm impressed that if they are passion flower seeds, I'm impressed she was able to germinate them. I don't know if I would have done something.
She just followed the directions to the T.
That's what I'm saying. She put more effort. She put more effort in
Step
those
1,
seeds than John does.
Step 2, step 3. Let sit for 5 hours.
Like I said, I'm impressed. She did a great job.
Yeah.
Did you tell her that?
Are they?
If she's listening to the radio, she knows.
I'll send her this clip.
I don't think
what John said.
She's probably not listening, but Gina probably is, and Gina can tell her, "Hey, Mom, Dad gave you props on the radio."
Okay, so let's see here. We are very close to a break. So, you know what? Do we have time for your quote?
Yeah,
John?
because
let's do the quote.
It's a Brian quote because it's
short.
so short.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
Right. From Mark Twain.
Mark.
And he said, "Climate is what we expect. Weather is what we get."
That's great.
That's funny.
We expect climate. You get weather.
Yep.
All right. We're going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors on Biz Talk Radio. Those on Facebook Live, kind of open, we used to say open phones. It's open Facebook, meaning your questions, your comments, no guest today.
And we got a show and tell when we come back.
And we got a show and tell, something very, very interesting you're going to want to know about, look at, and see after these messages on Biz Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Garden America Show, the country's most listened to gardening program. This is your chance to join us as we talk about gardening, horticulture, landscaping, in fact, anything that has to do with the world of gardening. Now, here's Brian Main, John Bagnasco, and Tiger Palafox on the Garden America Radio and Media Network.
Yeah, for those that missed the opening at the top of the hour, we played it for you again, just in case you forgot who we are and what we do. It is Garden America. Having a good time. We are back. Those on Biz Talk Radio want to watch the show live, you can go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. Every Saturday morning around 8 o'clock or so on the West Coast, as Tiger likes to say, 11 o'clock Eastern Time Zone, or 11:06 to be exact.
I got a question for this whole time thing, because I get confused with it.
Okay.
Because I try to put, we're Pacific time.
Right.
Because, people listen to our show all the time.
Sure.
But then there's Pacific Standard.
That's the same thing.
Is it the same thing?
Well, no. We are not on Pacific Standard Time now. It's
because of daylight savings,
time.
Right?
We will be in a couple of weeks.
We are on Pacific Standard Time now.
No, it's considered daylight savings time.
No, daylight savings time is what's coming up.
No, we're on daylight savings time now. We're going back to Pacific time in 2 weeks.
See, that's why I get confused. I don't know when we're on
John is
standard.
right. I'm having fun with John. He's correct. Right now,
it's not even fun.
It is.
I don't know why you think it's fun.
I could see him going, wait a second. What are you talking about? So when it gets dark early, it's Pacific Standard Time.
When it gets dark early, it's Pacific Standard Time. And then so over the summer months, it's daylight savings,
Yes.
so it's
Right.
Pacific time.
Well, it depends
Well-
what time zone you're in.
Right.
Everyone has daylight savings time. So if you're back east, it's Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
Until you switch to the summer hours, which is Eastern Daylight
Yes,
Time.
that's exact. And you have Central and Mountain. So there's
Right.
Well,
Pacific,
I know all
Mountain,
those,
Central.
but I just don't know. I didn't know the difference between Pacific Standard and Pacific because it's kind of confusing.
There's
because
no difference. It's the
there's-
same thing.
It's the same thing, right?
Right.
It just depends on the time of year.
Right.
And if you put Pacific, people are going to know you're on.
Here's
the
what I think.
You know
West
what?
Coast.
He missed school when they were discussing the prime meridian.
No, I know.
Latitude, longitude,
I know the prime
Tropic of
meridian.
Cancer. No, but so Pacific Standard Time is what we would normally be on if there was no daylight savings time.
Right.
So once we go to daylight savings time, it's not considered standard. It's
Right. It's
I know
Pacific.
you're supposed to correct our English, but Tanya wants to correct yours. She says it's daylight saving time, not savings.
You know what?
Oh.
And she's right, because that's the same thing that I have a problem with Happy New Year, Happy New Year's.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. All right.
No S.
Back to
Great. See,
gardening.
our listeners and viewers are very, very smart.
They are.
Daylight
That's
saving
why-
time.
I had a friend that, first of all, at the Rose meeting, the California Coastal Rose Society meeting last Sunday, someone brought to the meeting an electric pruner and said, you know what, you really need to get one of these. If you have carpal tunnel syndrome, or if you have a little bit of arthritis and you've got a ton of pruning to do, this is an electric pruner. And she said it was $179. So I thought, oh, well, it sounds good, but I don't know if I want to pay $179. Well, I ended up paying nothing because somebody gave me one. But I went to Amazon and it's now $99. And it comes with 2 batteries.
I think once they see this, they're going to know that it's worth the price.
It really is. It's amazing what it'll do. I'll tell you that I went to Amazon to look at it, and I would be leery of buying anything on the internet.
And it's not a brand name. You know, this isn't
well,
Black
see,
& Decker. This isn't.
But this
yeah.
is what I was going to say. It's made by Succa.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
would you ever buy anything
SUCA.
that had that on
Succa.
it? Yeah.
How much did you pay? Sucker.
Exactly.
But anyway, this is, I think it comes from China, so it's probably Succa or something.
I would imagine Suka, yeah.
Yeah, but I brought in some pieces of citrus wood
Right.
because citrus is a hardwood. You know, rose canes have a kind of a large pith, so they're usually pretty easy to cut unless you get down to really old wood.
Yeah, and you know, most roses are the stems are not super thick, so meaning
Right.
you know they're moderate. You know, you don't need a large blade pruner to
Right.
cut through most roses.
Now, I have to tell you, the person who gave this to me warned me that for the first 2 weeks of using it to keep your left hand behind your back, because as Tiger pointed out during the break earlier, this isn't going to just give you a cut on your finger. Your finger's gone.
All you
right?
have to see is it cut one branch
Yeah.
or one vine, and you'll know what we're talking about.
Because we've all done it where you're pruning something and you put your hand and you're like, ooh, got my hand, got my
Right.
finger, and you
Right.
you realize when you do it, you got it, so you stop you stop the grip motion of the pruner
Right.
to hopefully save your finger.
There's no AI in this.
There's no hesitation.
Right.
This will
There's
cut
no
your finger
hesitation.
off.
Yeah. So
It goes
So-
through those. It goes through branches like butter.
yeah.
Right?
So
Branches, vines.
It's battery operated, John.
Right.
You said, and his battery lasts for a good amount of time.
Each battery can last up to 4 hours. So you've got 8 hours of pruning, and to charge a battery only takes about 30 minutes.
And then it keeps track of your pruning cuts. So you could be like, oh, I pruned, you know,
It's like steps.
1,400. Yeah, exactly.
Like a Fitbit.
1,400.
A Fitbit for your pruner.
A Fitbit for your pruner, but not for you, because at the end of the day, all you did was do this
Right.
for 1,400 times. No gripping action.
But
Now,
I can imagine you could get a lot done, as opposed to just a regular hand pruner. So this will be a good demonstration here. Now, you going to use your finger, or are you going to use
no,
the?
not using my finger.
Okay.
All right. So this is a piece of citrus. that is a little bit harder. Just snapped right through it. And it's a clean cut.
Yeah.
That's
very clean.
That's the thing you kind of worry sometimes about
Well,
pruning.
on trees, how you want to get up near the main branch. If you
Yeah.
tried to cut off that little piece, it would cut off right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just shocked about how clean the cut was.
How quick it cuts it.
Well,
I mean, boom.
that is so scary.
Which means that if you did get your finger caught up in it, there's no going back.
Now, there's a really thick, really big. Yeah, look at that piece. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you normally would
Let's
saw
get that
through,
camera
right?
on you, Tiger.
Yeah. All right. So you're saying this will cut it? You think?
Oh, absolutely.
Hold on. Let's get that. Okay, here we go.
I'm scared about holding this thing.
Took two on that one.
Took two, but that's still a really good cut
Yeah,
right there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thick branch. That's thicker than my thumb, and it's a still viable branch. Which, this isn't hollow, shallow wood.
John, did you get any warnings, like in the directions, like disclaimers?
I think in kanji, Chinese, it might
what?
tell
Just
that.
brush that on the floor. We'll vacuum it up.
It does.
You know how Brian hates his studio getting messed up.
No, the floor's fine.
It does have a little disclaimer on the side that shows, like, do not put your finger inside of this. But you can't even read that. So the only thing that I would say, I would worry, not worry about the use. It is a little bit heavy, but it's heavy because it's a good product. You know what I mean?
I think it's because of the battery.
The-
The lithium
Well, the
battery
battery's
is
pretty
probably
heavy too,
half
but
the
like
size.
Tiger says, it's a good heavy-duty product.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, it feels the way it should. If it was
Right.
lighter, I'd feel it was cheap and not very good. But I feel like the mechanics in there are solid, so therefore it's better. And then, I mean, yeah, the battery on every tool. Whenever you have a blower for your garden and you put that battery in it, the tool is always light, and then the battery always makes it heavy. But
Right.
even without the battery in, I feel like the mechanics in here feel solid. Like, I don't feel, cutting that branch, you worried that the pruner part was going to bend or tweak
Or get caught up and stop.
and seize or
Seize
something.
up, right.
No, this is a well-made, device for sure.
Now, if you have something even larger,
Mm-hmm.
the same company makes an electric chainsaw,
Yeah.
a handheld
A
chainsaw.
handheld one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one of those they call it the hatchet saw. We have one of those for work, and it's just kind of nice to use, but you have to be careful with using those things for sure. 'Cause
Definitely.
It just becomes so easy to do anything. You just end up
Yeah.
making dumb moves.
Yeah, Lenore says kind of dangerous too. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's
in the
what we're
wrong
saying.
hands, absolutely. But it does a good job. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, if you're a young guy like Tiger and you go to the gym all the time and
Yeah.
have strong grip, you probably use regular pruning shears.
I would use this.
But as people get older, yeah, I would think if you did a lot of pruning,
think
especially fruit trees,
Yeah.
maybe not roses so much unless you've got 1,500 of them.
Well, first of all, it makes a good clean cut.
Yeah.
It's simple to use, and it's really convenient.
Yeah.
I would say if you had one and you were doing pruning, you would probably be a better pruner because, I mean, when you're pruning, even some of the large roses, switching between your hand pruner and then to a lopper and then maybe
Right.
to like a hand saw for certain, trims or cuts. This one, you could do a lot of
Yeah, I
those.
think that almost eliminates the need for a lopper.
Yeah. Yeah, the long handle
Yeah.
pruner for sure.
Unless maybe lopper might have an advantage of being able to get in
Into some
Without-
area.
scratching your face up with thorns.
Yeah, I was telling John that when you first start to use this, you should get those metal mesh gloves,
Right.
Because you never know what you're going to prune.
The advice about keeping your left hand behind your back is
Valid.
probably the best advice
Probably
and
valid.
very
It's very
valid.
valid.
I would I would do that. I just would.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking, though, is if you did cut your finger off, it would be a nice clean cut.
Yeah.
And if you put it on ice and might be able to reattach
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's going to be a good clean cut. I mean, when you go to the doctor, they're going to be like, "Which surgeon cut off your finger?"
Yeah, really. How about using something like that much smaller in surgery? Clip. No need for scalpels anymore. We've got this little device here.
Oh, good.
We still don't have California poppies, do we?
I've got foliage.
Right.
No flowers.
Right.
Yes. Correct.
And everybody that is going down the freeway looks and sees all the orange and thinks, wow, look at the California poppies. Not everybody, but a lot of people do.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't think I've seen any open yet.
Nope.
Anywhere.
Nope. Yeah.
Though our buddy Steve in Simi Valley had a variety of California poppy just starting to open, right?
Yeah, you're right. He did.
Yeah.
It was like a more kind of yellowish, not the orange. It was
a hybrid of some type.
Yeah. Because he sent us those pictures, and they were opening.
Yeah,
we could
and
see
that
it.
was a week or 2 weeks ago.
Simi Valley. Yeah.
Well, they're inland, so a little warmer.
A little warmer, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe
that break in the rain and cool weather. That's when it made it happen.
Yeah, maybe if you're out in the desert, you might be seeing more bloom.
Yeah, probably.
You would think with all this rain, this would be another super bloom year, right?
But was it early enough, the rain? Because that's the thing, right? Is timing the rain.
It started in December, right?
early.
We got a lot of rain in December.
Mm-hmm.
Did we not?
I think January was the wettest month, though.
Yeah.
Maybe February, into February.
Because that's the with the seeds, they have to get the rain, and then they have those weeks, month of germination, and then actually going into flower. And then the other thing that some of those areas got, though, with this last storm was snow when the flowers were probably emerging.
Right.
So it might have almost killed the super bloom where these plants were growing,
right.
and all of a sudden they got snowed on, and now they don't bloom at all.
Well, if I remember correctly, we had December rain, but then we got Santa Ana's. Remember that dried it all up, and all the rain was, pretty much gone until it started raining again in January. So I don't know what that did. Gina said that at Universal Studios she saw a poppy.
California poppy?
Yep.
Yeah, they
she
forced
was
those.
yeah.
or was it one of their fake ones? Yeah. The one thing that is really neat, I was up in Carlsbad, and I mentioned this last time on the show, but their hills were covered in purple lilac flowers. Just so pretty to see.
Oh, the ceanothus?
The ceanothus, yeah.
Something Gina pointed out, I think while we were on the freeway, were all the lupins.
Yeah, they're starting now.
Which it seems to me like more so than ever on those.
We talked about this a little bit last show about the wildflowers, and that's when you kind of know the wildflowers are starting off, right? Is like, because it's one thing to see those African daisies; those come out early. You see those all over, and then you see the lupin, and then you see the poppy and the gara, and there's just a bunch of other flowers that kind of come up. Lupin, though, they're one of my favorite flower. I don't know; they just look neat the way that it's a spire bloom. Purple faded colors, like really neat flowers. Oh, Daniel should be posting one of the videos I shot on freesias because I have all the freesias blooming in my yard.
Wow!
And I took a
now,
video.
These are the ones that were left over. They're coming back, or new ones.
That's all I plant is leftover plants. So these freesias are probably
but I meant were they from the year before, or just new bulbs?
These are naturalized freesias
Really?
that come up every year, and they're in full bloom right now. And these ones have to be probably 4 years old now in that area. And when you see the video, John, you're gonna laugh because it's full. Like
Really?
they just keep reproducing right there. They're right along my pool, and I put in a mix of colors of whites and yellows and purples and reds and pinks, and just let them go crazy. It's cool.
I know that. What's Old House Bulbs? Is that the
I don't know.
name? It's a bulb company in Michigan. We used to have Scott, who owned the company, and I think he's retired and sold it, but he used to be on occasionally. And they had a white freesia that came from California.
Ooh.
And it naturalizes anywhere that you plant it in California, where some of the hybrids, maybe the doubles and stuff, are harder to come back.
Right.
But it sounds like yours are growing fine.
Do you know who the freesia is named after?
Louis B. Free.
Frederick Fries.
Frederick Free?
Yeah. Yeah.
Louis B. Free.
German botanists from the 1800s.
Wow. Look
You-
at
if you would-
Tiger.
When you watch my video, you'll learn.
I did not
you'll learn a
know
little
that.
bit about
He didn't
that.
go to the gym this morning. He was studying that
Yeah.
for his video.
I was doing my mind workout
So he's going to post that
on our social media.
Social media.
I've started loading videos into our
YouTube?
little Google Drive.
Oh, the
for
Google
him,
Drive that he
so
sent
that
us.
way he can start
Right. Oh, that's good.
fine tuning them, and then little tidbits of information out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that, those listening, those watching here on Garden America.
Carla says, "Are you here, Gina? I wanted you and Kendall to be special in-studio guests."
Oh.
And she says, I'm sure you would be as well behaved as Tiger's kids. But it's funny that Carla mentions that because yesterday, before Gina went to take the kids to visit their friends in Temecula, she said, "Can I come in studio with you tomorrow? And then afterwards, you can take me to Mission Hills Nursery, and then we'll go up to San Diego Botanic Garden."
Oh,
I said,
wow.
"Sure, if you want to."
Yeah.
Great garden day.
Yeah. And then she got home last night and she said, "What time are you getting up?" That's way too early.
That's funny.
So much for the nursery and the show. But hey, your nursery closes at what time?
5 o'clock
5 o'clock.
Pacific time.
Lenore,
Standard time.
standard time?
Standard
Savings time. Saving time.
Saving time.
Is it?
I
Is
will
it
never-
savings or is it standard?
Saving. No
It's
S.
saving.
Oh, I thought it was standard. I thought that was the PST.
That's standard right now.
Okay. But
Pacific Daylight Time is PDT.
Okay, this is getting like who's on first.
Yeah.
It really is going back and forth. I will never forget that, though. Tell me once. I'll never say it again that way. No S.
really?
No S. It's ingrained.
Scott Online points out that the nursery I was talking about was Old House Gardens in Michigan.
Okay.
Old
So they sell
house.
heirloom bulbs mainly, which is kind of interesting.
And where can freesias grow to? All of California?
Probably most of California. They would not grow. Freesias and ranunculus would not grow in Detroit, which was Zone 5.
Okay.
So probably Zone 6, maybe.
Okay.
Somebody asked me here at the station this week, speaking of bulbs, they live in Zone 9, or I'm sorry, Zone 10. Is that Encinitas?
Zone 10, yeah.
Okay.
Most of San Diego County's in Zone 9 or 10.
Okay, well,
but
she's Zone
mostly
10 and wants to plant bulbs
Yeah.
and wants to know too early, too late, what can she plant?
Oh, yeah. In between right now.
Well, there's spring bulbs and summer bulbs.
Yeah.
It's too late to plant the spring bulbs
But
or
summer
the fall
bulbs.
bulbs.
Yeah.
It's too late
If
for
it's a
that.
summer
'cause
bulb,
they're
go
getting
for
to
it.
bloom now. But begonias, dahlias, gladiolus,
Yeah.
you can put those in now if you can find them.
Yeah. I was going to say kind of in between.
But it's a little bit early, right?
Yeah.
Especially for dahlias because they don't like cold, wet weather. So if you've been, with all this rain, if you've got soggy areas, you
There it
don't
is.
want to put dahlias in those areas.
We talked about the flower fields a few shows back too, and they were saying they were opening, but I guess somebody posted that they're not. They're open, but it doesn't look great.
Impressive.
Right now. Yeah.
They're just kind of waiting for things to dry out a little bit?
Yeah,
Or
Gino
what?
is
It's
asking
probably
me
because
about
it's been
that.
so cool,
It's-
right?
Well, it's a little bit too early, right?
Yeah.
Usually March is the
right.
peak for the flower fields.
Mid-March.
Right.
Yeah. Which is all ranunculus. So
And then usually they try to get a Mother's Day in there. It's like the last week, but
Yeah.
they're usually pretty much bloomed out.
But
they plant
this
them
winter-
at different times now, trying to
try
extend,
it.
Right.
But I was going to say, but this year they might get that because it has been a little cooler, and sometimes that slows it down, where it holds on a little bit of a bloom for periods longer than normal. Because the problem usually is that we get so hot right after our
Right.
last rain,
Yeah.
that everything just starts to bolt and flower and grow, and then like you're saying,
It's
by
going to be
Mother's Day-
interesting to see how things
Well,
come to fruition this spring.
and then the other thing too is the ground being so saturated,
Right.
and if it does get warm, how much things are going to grow.
Yeah.
Right? Because normally they don't have that much water in the ground while they're growing. But now this year there's going to be so much water in the ground that I think hedges and shrubs and trees
Right.
are going to grow a lot more this year. Yeah. Uh-oh.
What's John? What's he
I don't
playing
know.
with?
Watch John. He's playing with his pruner.
I wanted to close it.
Yeah, good call for sure. Yeah, that's an impressive pruner, and it's pretty neat to be able to kind of have something like that when you do a lot of gardening and maybe you don't have the grip strength and you still want to prune.
Well, let me ask you this: does it require sharpening every now and then, or?
I saw that there was another blade in there. Huh,
Yeah, it
John?
comes with a spare blade, and
you should sharpen it.
Yeah,
Because that's what happens with
Just
the
like any
regular hand
pruner.
ones. After a while, you're like pressing because it needs to be sharpened.
Yeah. So I'm sure you need to sharpen it every so often, just like any other pruner.
Well, my other pruners I leave lying everywhere.
They get
Where
rust sharpened.
this is in its own little case, and it's probably going to hold up better than a regular pruner.
Yeah.
So
Just don't leave that lying
What are you
around.
looking forward to pruning? Roses?
Well, when Tiger's crew came out and was putting irrigation on the hill, they pruned a Meyer lemon, and because it was in the way of digging for the irrigation pipes, I think. So they cut a whole bunch of branches off and left them on the side of the hill. And I was thinking, this is a huge pile. How am I ever going to get it in the recycle bins? So yesterday I brought them all down to the bottom of the hill, and I took that little pruner and went out there and pruned for an hour straight.
Just chopping it up.
Just chopping them up into little pieces, and it was fun, and they all fit in the containers.
How about that?
Yeah,
I'm surprised you don't have just a big pit that you just throw all your clippings
we do.
into.
In the tree pit.
Well, but like
Something
more accessible. Like why are you even using a green waste receptacle?
receptacle.
Yeah.
We use it for wood, unless you're into hugelkultur. But I have a big compost pile down by the new rose area that I'm planting.
So how long do you leave that wood in there?
He's never touched it.
Once a week in the recycle bin, and they come and dump it.
And once a week?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't leave it in there for a year, do you?
No, they dump it every week.
Because that'd be year-old wood, wouldn't it? Walk right into that.
And it only blooms on new wood.
Right, exactly.
You bring up something that's important, Tiger.
Yes.
When it comes to pruning,
Yeah.
since we were talking a little bit about pruning, spring flowering shrubs
Yep.
don't prune until after they're done blooming.
I was just at a landscape, and I think pink flowering tree, Tipuana. Are they spring flowering? Do you know?
Summer, I think.
Is that summer? Okay, so
They're
there's
not
another.
pink either.
There's Tipuanas.
Yeah, they're kind of yellowish, aren't
There's
they?
a pink and a
Creamy
yellow
color?
one.
Oh, you're thinking of tababuya.
I am thinking of Tababuya.
Right.
Do they have a yellow Tababuya?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
Yellow's
I'm thinking
the common one.
Okay,
and
so
then-
Tababuya, spring flowering. I saw a blooming Tababuya the other day on a landscape.
now that you mention that, tababuyas are really impressive, and I think I might need a couple of those.
It just perked your ears a
I
little
need
bit.
one of those.
Well,
some of those.
Do you know where where the trellis that Shannon put by the chimney is?
Yeah.
As you come up, Shannon wants that bed, not the one where the trellis is, but right next to it on the other side of the door. She wants it to be a shade bed, but it gets a little bit too much sun for camellias.
Yeah.
And
especially in the summer months. Like
so
right now,
she
it's
was
probably
saying
not
on the other side of the sidewalk, we could plant a tree to give the extra shade that we need during the summer. And now that I'm thinking about it, tababuya might be perfect because they're deciduous.
Fast
so
growing.
I would get the shade in the summer when I need it, but then in the winter I would let more sun in.
Yeah. And they're fast growing too. So it would turn into a shade tree quickly for you.
I don't think she likes yellow, so I think maybe we'll do pink.
Pink.
She likes yellow, but not near the house for some reason.
Well, it's not because it doesn't go with her theme. Doesn't
could
go with
be.
her. It doesn't go with her
Yeah.
color palette of her home right now. Yeah. Yeah, I saw one of those starting to bloom. You mentioned spring
Right.
flowering trees, and I haven't seen any red buds yet, though. Have you seen? Because you have a few on your property.
Right, I do, and they have not started to swell yet.
Yeah, those are striking, the red buds with the colors that they come out, and then when the whole branch has all the flowers up the whole stem, and you can see it, Brian. And John has the perfect spot for a red bud because they're ideal in a tree pit where when they bloom and their backdrop is all the green foliage still.
Right.
Up close, I've seen people use them in landscapes, and they're okay, but I like them better as a backdrop in a landscape.
Well, they've got all the new varieties now. Is it Ruby Falls? Is that the one that I got from you?
Yep.
Which is really pretty because it doesn't get very tall and looks like it's weeping. And then Forest Pansy was, I think, the first hybrid, which
Yeah.
is a regular size redbud but has the red leaves. And now they've got Flame Festival,
Yeah.
which has multicolored leaves all during the summer.
Yeah, it's
And
almost
spring.
like a fall
Yeah.
fall look
Right.
through the summer
Yeah,
months.
and then there's one with white and green leaves. A variegated
one?
Right.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know how that would hold up to our sun. Those
Yeah.
are all varieties of Cercis canadensis. And canadensis, if you think of it, means, of or from Canada.
Canadians.
Right. So the one that we normally see here is the western redbud, which is Cercis occidentalis. I think so.
I think so.
Could be wrong.
No, I think so.
But anyway, that one's drought tolerant.
Yeah.
And takes full sun without any problem. But the eastern redbud, Cercis canadensis, does not look its best when it's hot in the summer. The leaves will burn a little bit, but the spring showing is spectacular, and they do fine.
Cercis canadensa, right?
Yeah, canadensis.
Cis. Oh, there's an S.
Yeah,
Yeah. Occidentalis. And
that's the western redbud, right?
right. And there are some, they're native to southern Utah and Nevada and through California into Arizona. The Occidentalis.
Yeah,
So those are
it's
those are
definitely
all
drought
good
tolerant.
drought-tolerant ones.
Right.
And I was going to say, yeah, I feel like in Moosa Creek and some other native growers have released some native redbud varieties. And so probably what do you think they did? Did they cross the Occidentalis with the Canadian one to get some of those colors and foliage? Because
My guess would be that they were seedlings,
Uh-huh.
and just like if you plant rose seedlings, then you pick out the ones that are a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
And then because if you buy those, they're all grafted. So those varieties are grafted onto regular red buds to get the different colors.
Okay. Because
So-
because they're like making some really different colors, and the regular one was just green with the
Right.
red or pinkish flower.
Right.
Like that's the Occidentalis one. So-
Yeah. Right. But the Cercis canadensis, the regular red bud, I think was not that popular here because green is nothing special.
Yeah.
And the flowering is really not for a long period in the spring. But if you've got the flowers in addition to the leaf colors for the rest of the year, or at least part of the year, it makes a big difference. So I
Yeah.
think that's why forest pansy was so popular. And a lot of
And they're good inter-landscape trees because they're not super huge too.
right,
So that's nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go, Brian.
It's all up here. Soaked it all in. I'm going to go home and apply it.
I have
I don't
to-
think you can do one in a pot though.
No.
I don't think you can do
No.
a redbud in a pot.
I think you could do a Ruby Falls
You
in
think-
a pot.
You
think
so?
really?
Oh yeah.
It would have to be really well draining soil, and
15 gallon?
no, it'd have to be a whiskey barrel
Okay,
kind of
yeah,
size
okay.
thing. I don't think, a
you
15
could keep
gallon.
one in a 15-gallon for about 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Especially, and they like a little bit of shade too, so be perfect.
Yeah, that variegated one maybe. Yeah,
Or Flame Festival.
yeah.
The my magic dogwood is got probably over 100 buds on it right now. I can't wait till that thing opens up. Anybody that's
If anybody was listening to this and just tuned in, think this would be like some kind of marijuana show. my magic dogwood has all these buds on it.
Can't wait till
What is this? What is this plant that John's talking about? Magic dogwood.
if you're listening to us or if you're at home, if you Google magic dogwood, I think you'll be shocked at the flowers.
Are you going to be able to ever reproduce that tree? Because you could retire. You could retire if you can get cuttings and seedlings or something from that tree.
It took a long time to get that. I bought it from a nursery in Oregon.
Yeah.
And they were grafted, and it came down, I think it was over 2 feet. It must have been maybe close to 3 feet when it came down. I have to look up the name of that nursery because it took forever to find somebody that had it. The nice thing if you're in Southern California about that particular dogwood is you know that dogwoods like colder climates, so they don't bloom reliably here in Southern California. But this variety of dogwood comes from Mexico, albeit up in the mountains.
Right.
But still a little bit warmer than normal dogwood.
Yeah, I would say not coastal, but mountain San Diego.
I think it would grow coastal.
I don't think so.
See, you're just saying that. You don't even know, right?
No, I don't think it would because think about where...
I know you don't think so, but you don't know so, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But...
How does it stand up against wind?
Well, that's why he has it on one of the protected sides of his houses, too.
And that's your concern about
well,
close
I mean,
to
just
the coast,
coastal
right?
and exposure and all of that. So, I mean, hey, anything's possible. But
Right.
But I kind of feel like it's a mountain tree for California. So Fallbrook, the Escondido Mountains, Julian, those places, kind of a thing. I think it would do okay. But John,
I don't know.
John thinks it's going to grow in La Jolla.
I don't know. You don't
But
know
that's
until
what-
you try it.
But that's why you need to grow this tree so we can start reproducing it so you can retire off of four plants that you
Four
sell.
plants.
and
I
then
think
we'll
I
sell
could buy them from the nursery in Oregon and then sell them on
them.
eBay.
Yeah.
There was someone on eBay. I'm trying to think of the name of the nursery. It was. It'll come to me. But he was selling 10 seeds, putting them up for bid on eBay.
Bid, not
And
even
almost always the seeds sold for over $100.
Were these magic beans? did they create a beanstalk? What were these seeds?
Per seed,
What
100
were
per
these
seed,
seeds?
right?
What
The
were
name
these
of the
seeds?
company is Strange and Wonderful Things.
Sucker.
That guy has made thousands and thousands. I probably shouldn't say this on the air because maybe he's not paying taxes. But I think he might be associated with the Berkeley Botanical Garden.
What are
even,
these seeds of?
of the dogwood?
Oh, of the dogwood.
Right,
Okay.
the magic dogwood.
Got it.
And if occasionally he'll have plants,
Uh-huh.
and the plants are always well over $100, sometimes $200.
See?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. Why have you not grown it to be able to do this?
I need
yet?
help, Tiger. I need people.
People, he needs a entourage.
Yeah. Wait, what? You need people just
Handler.
cheering you on as you walk through and water things?
Lenore wants to know how tall the magic dogwood are. Mine's been in
Overall,
a
or
15-gallon can for probably 4 years now.
mm-hmm.
And so it's not very tall, maybe like 6 feet, but I think,
And it survived that house build.
yeah,
There was a lot of
It did.
stress on that time frame.
that's true.
Yeah.
But my guess is it's going to be a small tree, so probably under 15 feet.
Like a redbud.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a redbud.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll get Tiger one for Christmas if I can find it for
Just to
less than
see.
$100.
Yeah, exactly.
See if it lives.
Yeah, he's going to prove me wrong. I've got this avocado that I think is on its way out. I planted it on the lower part of my house, and I feel like it's got enough water and the exposure's good, so I don't know if it's going to leaf back out, but it lost all its leaves recently.
I have a few citrus like that with no leaves.
That's not good.
They have a lot of fruit.
Good.
No, not even one leaf.
Ooh. All fruit?
Yeah, just fruit, no leaves.
Completely stressed to the max right now.
Wow.
But I haven't fertilized them. I think that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have time to do everything. When I get back from Florida, I'll start fertilizing.
You're going to get encouraged by what you see in Florida with citrus all over the place.
You guys remember I'm not here next week because I'm going to Florida.
It's next week. Well, we should have taken next week off.
Well, it's too late now.
No. Newsletter hasn't come out yet.
Well, that's true.
It all hinges around the newsletter.
Yeah.
Well, who wants to hear just Brian and Tiger
I know.
next week?
Oh,
No
but we
way.
have guests that you won't believe called into the show. And we just turn the show over to them.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
Right?
We had him on as a guest.
Wasn't he one of the San Diego Gardner guys? Weren't we talking
Was
about
he?
him?
I don't know. I'm hoping that when we go to Florida, I can visit Fairchild Gardens. The problem is that that's south of Miami, and we're going to be north of Tampa.
It's way far away.
That's
like
way-
saying you're going to go to Oregon while you're visiting San Diego.
Yeah, really.
But I think it's only a 2.5-hour drive, and I just took me 3 hours to get to Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And it took you how long to get to the airport because of the rain? 4 hours?
No, it took me 3 hours.
3 hours.
To get to the airport.
3 hours. Well, 3 hours is just as bad. Yeah. So you could have driven to Universal Studios in the time it took you to drive to the airport.
Right.
3 hours.
But what Richard Dreyfuss reminded me of Fairchild Gardens because the last time I was at Fairchild Gardens, I was walking down one of the roads, and off to my right was Roy Schneider.
And where is this?
It was in
Schneider?
Fairchild Gardens. Not Rob Schneider, Roy Schneider.
Roy
Schneider.
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider, that's
Scheider.
right.
No
Rob
N.
Schneider,
No N.
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider.
He
was in Jaws. He was the sheriff in Jaws.
The sheriff?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the guy that, get out of the water,
Yeah.
get out of the water.
I think he was in Sequest, too, when I was a kid.
He was also in,
that
what was that, Jazz, the movie? Not Jazz Singer?
All that jazz.
All That Jazz. Yeah, right after Jaws.
Yeah. Well, he was filming a commercial, I think, is what it was. And he was smoking cigarettes one after the other.
Mm.
And Richard Dreyfuss made you think of him
Yeah.
at Fairchild Gardens?
Well, yeah, because they were in Jaws together.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't put that together at all.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't- You're right. You're right.
Uh-huh.
Was he in the original, Dreyfuss?
Yeah, he
Or
was
in
he was
two?
the hotshot young shark guy, the scientist.
He was
The
the
scientist.
okay.
Right.
Sorry, I get all of them confused.
And
Thanks
him
for
and
explaining that. Tiger's thinking I'm just...
Yeah, I'm just like he's just putting people together.
whatever.
Yeah.
He went back and forth with Robert Shaw because Robert Shaw was the old grizzly fisherman, shark hunter, and what's his name, had all the gadgets.
Yeah.
The cool scientific
Dreyfuss.
gadgets, Dreyfuss, the gadgets and stuff, and here's how we're going to locate the shark. And
Yep. Hey, John, have you noticed that Brian has completely lost track of time and hasn't had a commercial break in probably like an hour?
it took you 40
no,
minutes
it took
to
me. It took me. I knew right away.
Now, why do you think that? Why do you think that is?
Because you just stopped recording the show.
We had a crash. We had a crash early in the show, and we
What?
just, the professionals we are, we just kept on going.
Wow.
Yeah, computer crash, which I have to deal with, and if not after the show Monday.
But yeah. But it's cool though because
We'll just keep talking. People on Facebook get the show
But
right
if-
on through.
But if you would have kept commercial breaks, Daniel could have pulled the audio and used the show.
But there's no audio there because
But he could have pulled the audio from here. Remember
Well, he
we talked
can. He
about
still
this.
can. But I didn't take breaks.
Yeah.
So I would have to go back in there
So
and put the
unlike
breaks
the
in.
professional you are,
Yeah, that's
you
what
just let
Tiger
us
was
run.
saying. Why didn't you take breaks?
You know what? Just lost track of time here.
Just
When
lost in
I
thought.
listen to you guys talk, I'm so enthralled.
Yeah.
An hour seems like,
Well, That's true. Who could blame you?
yeah.
Hey, Linda up in Reading says, Tiger, that her citrus is suffering through the cold weather. I mean, and then they got more snow on the way, right?
Yeah.
So she wants to know, she's got a few leaves still hanging on the tree, but what should she do?
I mean,
Lots of fruit.
yeah. Nothing you can do right now.
She's got frozen orange juice.
Yeah. This is where those orange juice concentrates come from.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. You're living through it right now.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do right now. And if
Nothing
there's-
you should do to wait until the weather warms up and they start budding out again.
Right. And that's when you can fertilize, but
And cut off the dead wood.
not even throwing a sheet on it through the cold right now is going to do anything if you've got
Nothing's gonna
no
help.
foliage or anything like that, because just let it kind of weather its way through. Don't prune anything. Don't fertilize. Let it dry out. Also, this is a big mistake people make. Also, after a good rain spell, good rain season, is they turn their irrigation system on to go with their lawns and their flower beds, right? Because like what will happen is, let's say it stopped raining here in San Diego today, and let's say we let the ground dry out for a week or two, and then people start to see their lawns dry out or their flower beds dry out, and then they just go, okay, just turn on their sprinklers again. Well, all the shrubs and trees that are in those areas as well, they don't need the water as much as the lawn and the flowers do. So then you end up overwatering those shrubs and trees because you've turned your system back on. And then the, spring growth hits and happens, and there's a lot of poor drainage and overwatering problems that happen because of that. You didn't allow your shrubs or trees to dry out as much. And citrus are one of those that, again, you should wait a little bit longer to dry out because they do get root rot issues, and a lot of times you'll see like bugs and things like that from a stressed out plant because you've just been watering it too much. It has to be hot in like long sunny days in order for it to really use up the water in the soil. And if it doesn't have foliage on it, it's also not working. Like stems don't just like,
Right.
well, stems of plants don't just photosynthesize. So
Right.
you have to wait till there's foliage to get it to kind of actively start working.
Well, you
again.
said the same thing early in this show about all this rain, how much underground water we're going to have after the rains, that there's going to be a lot for the plant material to take up.
Yeah. And it'll be great when it's hot and sunny out.
Yeah.
But
It's going to be a beautiful
if you
spring.
keep adding and compiling it, it's going to create root rot issues.
That recommendation is good for any subtropicals too that have frozen. Don't cut anything now. Just wait until the weather warms up, new buds begin to form, and then anything that's dead will show itself, and you can clip off the dead areas.
We were almost fortune tellers last week, I think, too, when we talked about preparation for hail, because we got a good amount of hail through this last storm, which is going to show a lot of damage on a lot of plants. I mean, it covered areas.
Right.
So that a lot of subtropicals were damaged during that hailstorm. A lot of succulents were damaged during that hailstorm.
Oh, it'll show up on all kinds of succulents,
Yeah.
aeoniums and echiverias and
And
things
what
like
did
that.
you say, John? It's going to take a month or so on some of those succulents, right, to show the damage?
Could.
You were saying specifically with succulents, it doesn't always show right away. So you have to kind of remember be back in like say, oh yeah, back in late February, March.
Cycads especially.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's
Cycads.
what's- right.
It showed. You'll see those pelletized little dots on the plant.
Yeah, little yellow spots, and you'll think you've got some kind of disease or scale.
Or somebody sprayed something on it,
Yeah.
splattered on it. Yeah.
Hail damage.
Yeah.
And you can't, succulents take forever to put out a new set of leaves, right? Usually just once a year, twice a year on some of them. So you're going to be stuck with that for a while. Veronica in Spring Valley had mentioned frost cloth. Once the leaves are gone, there's probably no point. However, I was just thinking, if you had frost cloth, it might protect a lot of the succulents from hail.
Yeah.
And plants from hail if you knew ahead of time. Usually you don't know that hail's going to come.
Oh, we don't get hail here hardly at all anyway.
Well,
We did last week.
No, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
That last big hail, if you looked at the weather, the storm had passed. And that last band of rain, hail, was literally the last cloud bank that came through of that storm. And it just was freezing cold, hail.
Yeah.
Because it was
Right.
cold.
Yeah.
It was very cold weather, and that hail just dropped. And then it was like, boom, bang, and then it was done. Because then the sky cleared out. It was beautiful.
Rick in Star, Idaho wants to know when to spray fruit trees. And usually, depends what part of the country you're in, but always at the is it called pink bud stage? Just when the, excuse me, the flower buds begin to swell, but before they open.
Yeah.
Once they're open, it's too late to spray.
But can you be too early? Like say he was to have done it, for Idaho, in Star, Idaho, say he was to have done it in, late January or February. Is it wasted because of all the rain and weather they got, and it's pointless to do it then?
I don't know if it would be pointless. Depends what it is. If you were spraying for, let's see, scale maybe.
Common, very common.
Yeah, it would still kill the scale because it would be suffocated, right?
Right.
But probably better to wait till the weather warms up a little bit.
Okay.
Which last time I was in
disease?
Idaho, that would be June.
Yeah. Disease, because a lot of people spray not even for bugs, it's more for peach leaf curl,
right?
Disease things.
Well, peach leaf curl is the one that once the flower buds open, if it's going to be infected, it already is.
Already is.
The same thing for what's the disease pears get? Fire blight.
Fire blight.
Right. Same thing. So you want to spray just as the buds are beginning to swell. It's called the pink bud stage.
Got it.
What happened to swell and show color?
What? Swell and show color?
I don't know if I've ever heard that
You've
phrase.
made that term, something with the buds before they swell and show color. I can go back and we can play the tapes. I don't know what you were referring to,
Nobody
but something that swells and shows color.
Please stop repeating it.
Let's go back up to Carla. What would cause pea seeds to come up to the surface of the soil?
Pea?
Yeah, PEA, pea seeds.
To come to the surface so they floated? And you planted seeds and then they just came up.
Yeah, I would think it would just be the rain, the water.
In the hitting, the high rain hitting.
If the soil becomes super saturated, the seeds are going to have a tendency to come up a little bit anyway. But if the top of the soil is soft, the rain hitting it, like you're saying, is going to wash the soil away. So it might look like they're all coming, but it's probably a combination of coming up a little, but soil also disappearing.
It's very common when you do a seed tray and you lay your seed, planting mix, you put your seeds, and then you dust them with some covering. If you take your hose and you just water hard, all those seeds are just going to splash out.
Right.
And that's why you get a real fine, hose end, or you do just a mister to keep the soil damp, because you don't want that splashing action to come up. Now, the other thing that I will say is sometimes interesting about seeds is, they sometimes will float, and like if it's a heavy water area and like you're John saying, you got all this water almost fills up a pot or planter, they will float to the top, because usually you're planting them in like a lightweight medium.
Right. They're lighter than the soil.
Yeah. So, but yeah, usually it just comes from the pounding of the water from a heavy rainfall. Yeah.
Mike says, speaking of citrus, he's got great oranges. However, they're hard and they have rust coloring. Any tips?
On the outside, the skin has rust.
Right.
So they're diseased.
Yeah. So that's citrus mite.
Yeah.
And you've got to use an oil, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Horticultural oil.
Triple action, horticultural oil. Yeah. And the issue with that is that you have to apply like on a once a week for about a 6 or 8 week cycle to really get rid of the problem. It's not just a one-time spray and done.
Fertilome has dormant oils, don't they?
Yeah, dormant oil. And then triple action is their insecticide, miticide, fungicide spray that you could use, on the citrus throughout the year. And then the other thing too that's hard with citrus is you kind of have to get in there and do the underside of the leaf with these sprays along with the top.
Oh, really?
Because you got whitefly and other things in there that if you're just spraying the top, you're just doing half of the plant. And the problem with citrus when they have bugs is they get so weak that it takes a lot of recovery in order to actually begin to fight off sprays or fight off bugs or disease. So you have to be consistent, and then you have to be careful with those oil sprays. Where Mike, right? Do you know where he's at?
He's in San Diego.
Because you can't use those oil sprays in the heat of the day because they'll burn. Even this time of year, if it's into the mid 60s, it'll be if you spray the tree in the middle part of the day, you can get burning happening
because of the heat.
Yeah.
Rick wants to know if you should clean and disinfect your pruning shears.
John, no. I think everybody else says yes though.
Well,
I mean,
it
fire
de-
blight
if
and
you
go from
other
one-
issues. Yeah.
From one to the other.
if you have fire blight, you can spread it through pruning shears. So you really need to disinfect them between each cut.
Yeah.
So you don't spread that. And what do they use? Do they still use Fisan as a disinfectant?
Oh.
You can
I
also
just say
use 10% bleach, but the bleach will rust your tools.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure if you're using that you really clean and dry them when you're done.
Yeah.
But otherwise, 10% bleach will do that too. Just normal pruning, like when I prune roses, there's no way I would
Yeah, right.
between each cut.
Yeah.
It'd be hundreds of thousands of cuts.
Yeah, and you'd have to spray your pruner every time.
Yeah.
I think that's a great practice whenever you're dealing with a diseased plant, and then you're going to go into some healthy plants.
Right.
So, but at the same time, like you're saying with roses, I mean, what would you spread in roses that is so much worse when you spread it with a pruner? I mean, black
I don't
spot?
think you would spread anything really, unless, and I'm not an expert on this because I don't live in parts of the country where they have rosette disease. That's a virus, so it might possibly spread through pruning shears.
Right.
Usually, if you have rosette and you know it, the recommendation right now is to dig that plant out and destroy it because there's no cure for it.
cure.
Though they're working on cures.
But I mean, things like black spot, sooty mold, rust, they're spread anyways.
Yeah,
That to
They don't bother me.
That's
Yeah,
all the
to-
common stuff you're
well,
talking.
yeah,
Everyone's
but
got
to
that, right?
disinfect your pruners, and they're treatable. Like you're saying, like the rosette disease, you don't want to spray that because it's
Right.
not treatable. And then the other root rot issues, that's nothing to do with pruning. That's to do with soil-borne things and root issues that your pruning doesn't matter.
Carla's a little more practical than us. She says, "How about rubbing alcohol, or how about disinfectant wipes?"
Yeah. I mean, what we tell our crews, they carry a Lysol spray, and they just spray their pruners with Lysol whenever they're dealing with that stuff.
Yeah, but it only kills 99.9% of the germs.
All
What
you
about
need.
that
It's all you
1%?
need. Trees aren't affected by coronavirus. We're
I
good.
just read about a guy in Florida that what are they called? Neti pots.
The ones where you put in your nose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think at least my daughter said that you're supposed to use distilled water in those,
Okay.
and he used tap water,
Uh-huh.
and he got a brain-eating amoeba
Ooh.
that went up and killed them. They're like 99% fatal if you get one.
I'm sure the neti pot device itself, you got to be careful too. I mean, it's just a plastic little thing you get sitting in your cupboard, right?
Well, I don't know,
You
Wow.
better clean that out.
but I remember.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why I thought of that. Why did I think of that?
I don't- Well, because
he
we're-
didn't clean his neti pot.
You were talking about disinfecting
Oh, maybe.
everything, and
Tony in Connecticut is saying that you could maybe spread black spot spores.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if while the plants are growing.
Yeah.
But we're thinking of dormant cutting, so the leaves don't have any leaves. If you're in a cold climate, even in California, most of the leaves are going to be gone right now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And
then there's
I
a lot
wouldn't
of plants
grow
that aren't
roses
affected.
if I lived back east.
No, that'd be way
Because
too
you
hard.
got Japanese beetles, you got rosette
Deer.
disease, you got black spot.
Yeah.
a lot to
kinds-
contend with.
Yeah.
It's just too much. I just say forget it.
And then, I mean, a lot of plants, don't get a lot of particular diseases. So it's kind of nice. And if you can kind of garden around that. I mean, we were talking about red buds and, being native to California, there's a lot of things that they're just not susceptible to. And,
Right.
And that's a great plant that you don't have to worry about pruning and getting it sick. I mean, maybe these hybrid varieties that we're introducing now, they're more susceptible to things, but Yeah.
Since Tony's online, we should probably give props to her because the featured rose in this year's rose auction is lemon chiffon, and Modern Roses 10 says the rose is extinct.
Oh.
But thanks to Tony, not only is that not extinct, but it's going to be the featured rose in the auction at the National Convention of the American Rose Society in Shreveport.
So she has one,
She has one.
and then she's produced one more or multiple?
No, she sent budwood to Steve Singer at Wisconsin Roses, and then he budded up 4 plants for me from that.
And do you know, are all 4?
All 4 are growing.
Wow. So
I
she
know.
just,
It's like bringing the dodo bird back.
right. Way to
It's
go,
like
Tony.
Jurassic Park.
Way to go.
Yeah.
They found some DNA and some amber and made it happen. How did she have the one? Do you know?
Well, you know, it's a long, involved story,
Oh, I'm
but it's
sorry.
actually kind of funny because I used to be a buyer for Frank's Nursery, and Tony is originally from Detroit and now lives in Connecticut. I think she moved to New York. If I get this wrong, Tony, it's not that important. And then ended up in Connecticut. And she had this rose, and she probably didn't even realize
So it's an old rose.
how rare it was.
So
But she went out and checked the tag, which was still attached at the base of the
yeah,
rose.
they had those wonderful metal tags back in the day.
Well,
Yeah,
this-
no.
like a dog
yeah.
tag.
But this was a plastic tag
Really?
or paper tag that said Frank's Nursery on it.
Wow.
And I used to be the buyer for them.
Wow.
And anyone who was from Detroit back then would have known Frank's Nursery.
So this isn't that old of a rose either.
I think it's from the 70s,
Okay.
60s or 70s.
And it already went extinct in
virtually
40
extinct.
years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, she's very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I can't wait to see it bloom. I was having trouble. I think Tony might have posted a picture on Help Me Find Roses, and we were looking for a picture to advertise the auction. So I found a catalog picture,
Oh, okay.
which I think it
Were
said
they-
something
were they
like Yellow
paintings?
Rose of Texas or something.
Were they paintings back then too? It wasn't even a photograph.
No, it was it was a photograph, but it's going to be exciting to see that.
You know it's amazing, off subject, but I had the kids watch Michael Jackson's Thriller video because like music videos back then were movies. They
were
weren't
big.
just like a song.
MTV in its prime.
Yeah, it was a movie, and I was expecting it to be some kind of grainy, not very good video.
Mm-hmm.
No, they've completely re-edited it, and it looks like it was shot
even
last
back
week.
then it wasn't that bad, but they
No,
probably,
but I
they
mean, it's
probably
old.
digitized it
Yeah.
and brought it up to 4K maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you can watch a movie now where they've digitized it and it looks like it was shot yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
what
I
they're able
just
to do
watched
is
Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Darby Yoga. Did they like Thriller, by the way?
Yeah, they dig it.
There's a rose called Thriller.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it red?
No, I think it. I'll have to check. I seem to recall it being white, but I could be wrong.
Tony says Herbert Swim, 1950s.
Yeah, so Lemon Chiffon came. It was one of Herb Swim's creations, and it came out in the 50s.
So you're looking at 60, 70 years ago.
So you auctioning all 4,
No, one at a time.
one at a time.
There's gonna be one in the spring
gonna keep
auction.
one? Aren't you gonna
and
keep
you're
one?
gonna keep. You're gonna
Oh,
keep.
of course
them?
I'm gonna keep
Well,
one.
yeah.
No. I'm saying you're gonna grow them out. So you have the responsibility.
They've already budded out.
4 plants.
Yeah.
Staying alive.
Well, it's not
The-
that long.
the
It's just
last-
a couple months.
The last 5 of these plants, John.
The same thing happened with, coincidentally, Herb Swim's rose, I believe, Sunrise Sunset. And I searched I've told the story many times, but for 10 years to find the rose. And through a series of fortunate events, we found one plant which was basically dead except for one little maybe 6-inch stem on it. And now there's probably 100 of those plants around the country because we were able to get it budded up, sell it in the auction, and
I mean,
get it to people who
what would it take
will
for these
preserve it.
4 plants? How many more years until you can start pulling wood from those 4 plants?
I could probably pull wood this summer.
Okay, and then from hers, so in a couple more years, you can have 20 plants, and then
We could if
keep
we
going
needed
if you
20,
wanted,
but you want to sell them at the nursery? You want to have a
lemon chiffon.
lemon chiffon sale at the nursery?
Yeah,
You could sell Meyer lemons along with it.
lemon chiffon roses.
Everything lemon.
It's an all lemon weekend.
Can we root a Meyer lemon on top of a lemon
And Brian
chiffon
will,
rose?
Brian will come if you serve limoncello.
Yeah.
I'll set up a little, tasting area.
There
Could
go.
you graft a rose onto a citrus?
No.
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 That'd be kind of neat, right?
You can't.
What's the most Frankenstein thing you can do with a rose?
The most Frankenstein.
Like graft something.
Like
onto it.
something
What-
like
You can do multiple. You can do multiple
Multiple
grafts
roses.
of
but
colors.
You can't,
Yeah,
you can't
okay, yeah.
graft another plant onto a rose.
No,
There's-
not
there's
unless
no-
it's the same family, possibly. But
There's no rosa out there that's different than any other rose that you'd be like, oh, what is that? Kind of.
what's that rose growing out of your lemon tree?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah.
That's why I use the term "what Frankenstein thing"
Yeah.
you can do. Some evil
Well, there are different
experiment.
species of roses
Right.
that have different looking leaves that you might be able to graft onto,
That's what-
like Rosa minutifolia, which is native to San Diego and Baja California.
Mm-hmm.
And minutifolia, is minute, is
small.
tiny leaves. It looks completely different than anything you'd see, and it's a drought-tolerant rose.
Yeah.
The only thing that'll kill it is water.
Wow, imagine that.
Exactly.
How'd you kill your rose? I wonder.
So anyway,
Yeah.
you could have roses with different
Right.
leaves, maybe.
That'd be interesting if you could come up with a cool mix where maybe the bottom part of the plant is some bush, and then it comes out with like these hybrid tea roses, and then at the top of it is like florist roses that are sticking way
And
out
you know
of
what
the
you
top.
know what you name the rose? Sybil.
Sybil?
Sybil.
Bourdain's nursery. Do you remember Bourdain's, or were they out of business by the time you
No.
were in the nursery business?
I don't remember.
They used to create rose topiaries, like double ball topiaries or triple ball topiaries, and they would do 3 different miniature roses.
Yeah, I'd seen that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a Frankensteinian
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
is true.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, just a few minutes to go. We can wrap this up whenever.
Yeah.
I think we've covered all
Answered
the
the
questions.
questions.
Yeah.
All right.
Tony mentions rainbow rose. I'm not sure if she's referring to putting different roses on the same bush, but we know the rainbow flower is not a particular type of. It's not a variety of rose. It's just dyed. The cut flowers are white roses, actually, that have been dyed, so the petals have different colors.
Yep.
All right, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
we do appreciate you tuning in. Next week, we'll figure that out. John is off next week. We know that.
Yep.
He's in Florida.
Yeah.
Tiger will figure something out this week in plenty of time for the newsletter, John, because once that newsletter comes out, that's it.
Oh, it can't
We're
be
committed.
changed after that.
We're
right.
committed.
Yeah.
We are committed.
We should
thank you
be
for-
committed.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook Live. Have yourself a good rest of the weekend, a great week, and we'll do it again next time right here on Garden America, FaceTime Live and Biz Talk Radio. Take care.